Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
Guys, welcome back to Breaking Barriers. Another episode here. I'm really excited. We have Ari Zelmanow with us here. Ari, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hey, thanks, John. I really am psyched to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, what I'm really intrigued about, and me being obviously outside the podcast realm, me owning an agency and being in the marketing space and owning a couple of businesses, I've one thing that I've learned extremely over the past 15 years that I've been in business or owned businesses is just data and having the right evidence to be able to make actual data-driven decisions is so important. I've seen so many businesses not make it, so I'm excited for you to talk a little bit about what you do. But for people are like, who is Ari? Can you kind of give us a high level? Yeah.
So I've got kind of an interesting background. I am a retired police detective turned market detective. And now rather than investigating crimes, I investigate human behavior related to shopping, buying, and using products and services. There were 3 skills I learned as a police detective that drove the success of cases and put what I would consider really bad people behind bars. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, I'm really shocked that these skills haven't been used in the private sector, despite a clear desire for both like R&D and go-to-market teams to use data to get shit done.
Right.
But even more amazing was that the people entrusted with using this evidence didn't have the right skills to develop, present, and defend these business cases. And as you kind of alluded to, research should be one of the most valuable functions in the business, and researchers and the people who conduct researchers should act as senior consultants. Right. So my experience as a detective transformed into this market detective has shown me 3 things. There's collecting and interrogating evidence like a detective, reporting insights like a news anchor, and brokering outcomes like a hostage negotiator. When you get your research engine to do those 3 things, you have a competitive advantage above everybody else.
That's really, really cool. I've never heard a story like that where you go from being in crime to, utilize and leverage those tactics and skills into, in business. That's really cool. I really love that, Ari. And thank you for your public service, while you did it. So where were you? What state / area?
Right now I live in Colorado. But when I was a police detective, I was in Missouri.
Oh, very cool. Okay. Got it. So what are some things that you see that most businesses are not doing to leverage the right data, right? Like I think a lot of times when they're spending money, whether it's advertising dollars or positioning their brand, they just kind of put things together that they think that they like and make sense for them, and they don't kind of go in. So what are some things that you see them doing out there that they could level up?
I think the number one problem that businesses have today is they over-index. Well, the number one problem that they have is that they have all sorts of data that is being collected in different parts of their business. So they might have product analytics or market analytics or customer success data or conversations with customers. And all of that is siloed and firewalled, when really all of that is to tell the compelling story. So the example I would give you is, I've been in Walmart recently and I checked out and they did a survey on the little checkout screen. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is being used across the entire business to make better service or product decisions? Absolutely not. Yeah. And that to me is the number one problem. I think the second problem that they have is people over-index on collection of data and under-index on how do I use this to make better decisions. Like an example of that would be I've been dealing with Best Buy's Geek Squad recently, and Best Buy is in trouble, and here's why. Best Buy thinks it's in the business of selling consumer electronics, but that's not what it can be in the business of, because you can buy consumer electronics less expensive delivered to your home from Amazon. What Best Buy needs to be in the business of is how can we provide a better service experience to our customers so that we're like their partner in technology or some version of that. The only way you're going to get that, they would get that, is from conducting and gathering evidence from a lot of different sources.
Right. Yeah. I love that. And honestly, I can 100%, even as a business owner myself, in certain phases of my business, I've definitely seen myself, and I still actively see in other business owners where they're like, I'm going to be a better data collector. And then they collect the data, like you said, Walmart does, and they don't do the right things with it, or they don't even do anything with it, And so, that's the sad part, is do something with that data. If you're a business owner listening to this, most companies don't even have the proper data they need to accurately do the right things to move forward stronger and learn from, mistakes and challenges and stuff. But the ones that do have it, that are just, oh, okay, cool, I'm collecting data. It's really important what Ari's saying here, because that's what, when you look at some of the best companies that have just been around for so long, the crazy part, look at like a WB Mason, right? We live in a world where it blows my mind that people still order water bottles and office supplies and printer paper. Like in Adapting Social and any of my other companies, we have zero printers or any of that stuff because we're all tech. So like we don't need them. But it's like WB Mason is still around because of what? Like when I looked into that company, did research into them, they are a very big data-driven company. So they sell the things that most offices want. They typically don't go outside of those things. So anyway, my point is when you look at, success and history and companies that have done it really well, typically they leave little cookie trails or crumbs that you can understand what you can do as a business or business owner to really level that up. So I really love that. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say, and I think that it's also important to, I'm going to double down on something you said that I think is important, and that's, don't just listen to the good data. Like, so what companies generally will do with data is they'll get testimonials or positive customer feedback from interviews, and then they'll use that in marketing. But the bad data, they just kind of gloss over it. And it's really, you need to listen, paint the picture. Like, to me, I said, you need to collect and interrogate evidence like a detective. So make sure that the data is good. Then you need to make sure that you're building a good case from that of what's happening in the business, because you cannot in today's world decouple product from service delivery. They are one. Mm-hmm. Customers don't see your product. They don't see an iPhone different than Apple. They see it as one. It's one thing to them. So their relationship with the brand, their relationship with everything, it all has to be taken into account. If you don't do it, you're going to fall to those that do.
100%. I want to take a step back though, because we get a lot of people that email in and ask us questions, over the past, we started this in 2016. So pretty consistently about their career and making major career shifts. I think your shift in career it's wildly inspiring, because you went from such a different landscape, but applying similar knowledge. Number one, what led you to want to do this?
So I've always been really inquisitive. So this is going to be interesting, because when I first graduated from college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so I was a paramedic for a fire department.
Okay. Where did you go to college?
I went to Colorado State University.
Okay, cool.
And I graduated.
Is that what brought you back there, Ari?
I got lucky coming back. I got hired by Twitter. They had an office in Boulder. And they gave me the choice between here and San Francisco. And is there really a choice? Is there really a choice? So I just been really inquisitive. I like solving mysteries, and I like fast moving. I like high risk. I like that. I just and
most people don't. Most people are like, that's crazy. I don't want to do that.
Yes, and I think it's good to have that kind of self-awareness where if you don't want to do it, then you shouldn't.
Right.
But there's different jobs for different people. People get pigeonholed into well, I'm this way, so only these jobs are available. And what I'm saying is, I had a childhood dream of being a police officer and detective. I watched all the shows growing up. Right. I always wanted to do it, and I got to live my childhood dream. But then I went back to school and I got my master's and ultimately my doctorate while working full time. And then I dabbled around in organizational development, instructional, building and learning programs for companies. And I didn't love it because I was missing the element of investigating things. And I didn't realize at the time that there was this thing called market research. So I entered into a large consumer packaged goods company doing market research. But I knew that I loved technology and the way technology can solve problems for people. And so I took a job building Twitter's first research team for their data business. And then I built an analytics research and insights team for Panasonic. I helped build up some infrastructure for internal platforms at Indeed for a brief period of time. I then worked at a scale up, going from Series B to C at a company called Quantive. And now I lead a research team at Twilio, where we're solving a lot of those big problems, looking holistically across the business to kind of understand service and product related issues and how to take us into the next few years.
Right. That's really cool, man. What a transition. Wow. So being a detective, and it was so, what I love about this, most of the police officers, detectives, and, even to my family, like that were, obviously in that field, they like are the most opposite of tech savvy. It's not even funny. So it's so interesting to see you, but then again, you did say you are inquisitive. So it's so funny to see, or so like interesting and dynamic to see you go from a field like that, where like you're not really answering emails, it's very like, in person, like do those types of things. But to be shifting completely into the tech side, working with big companies like Panasonic, Twitter and Indeed and stuff. Now Twilio, it's really, really, really cool. Like it's inspiring. And the reason why I asked this question is because people who have, commented in over the years about like, I'm not happy in my job, or, I'm looking for a career change. I don't even know what to do. I don't have these skills or skill sets or experience. What would you say to those people that are like, I want to take the leap, but I'm comfortable here. I know my job, I have a steady salary, I have kids. What would you say to them, being somebody who did it?
So I think the first thing is if you have an area of interest, start learning about it. Like there's tons of free online learning that you can do. There's like Coursera, there's Udemy, there's like, you can learn about anything. Start down the rabbit hole of understanding what that new thing is. And then start trying it on. What I mean by trying it on is like, don't get so hung up in the cognitive learning of like reading about something that you're not like, okay, how does this work for me? So like, for example, I dabbled around in copywriting for a while. I thought that I'd wanted to do some data-driven copywriting. Great skill. Love to have it. But it became part of me becoming a better communicator, which is reporting insights like a news anchor, the second pillar that I teach about. So what I would say is dabble around in it, experiment with it, and then put it out into the world. Put things out there, test and drive toward it. And then really what's going to happen is where you think you want to go is not actually, it's where you think you want to go. As you make steps and progress, you're going to narrow in on the thing you want. So maybe you start out saying, you know what, I'm really fascinated about product management. But as you go through it, you find that, you know what, my love for product management is really interacting with customers. And that could take you to customer success. Just chase it down, try it on. I will be the first to admit that it gets increasingly harder when you have a mortgage and family and kids. But what's cool about today is that you can do a lot of these things that you want to do, your passion, on the side or for something else. And you can
home.
Exactly. And it could be like a hobby. Like it's okay also to do that. And your hobby can turn into your full-time thing. And if you do that, you're going to run into intersections and connections with people and things that'll take you to the next thing.
Right. Yeah. That I could not agree more with that statement. I got to ask, you got first off, the cool St. Louis shield in the back is really cool. You got the guitar thing behind you. Are you a rocker? Like what's going on there?
I love the guitar. I'm not very good, but I love it. I also love Legos. And so that is Legos, that guitar.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah. I also have a typewriter that I built. I like those really complicated Lego projects. Wow. Those are fun. But yeah, like enjoy that. Love music.
You're really a problem solver.
I do like that. Yeah. I like having problems. I like looking at interesting ways to do things. But I think the number one thing, I think if people are like, well, you know what, Ari, I don't know what to do. I would tell you, just do it. Get shit done. You have to make progress. You have to move forward. And let's go back to data for a second. When you do something, there's something called the OODA loop. OODA is an acronym for observe, orient, decide, and act. Mm-hmm. And if you take things in, orient them around, make a decision and act, and then you go back to observe, you can see the things that are changing while you're doing that, and you can continue to drive forward. you've got, the only way you're going to make progress is to make progress. You have to move forward.
Right. Don't let the pursuit of perfection stop you from making progress.
Couldn't agree with
One of
you.
the things that I heard from somebody who was a Marine that I absolutely adore and love this saying. I think you probably agree with it, being a former police. But they said most people go and prescribe by ready, aim, fire. And his ideology was ready, fire, aim, because he would rather have to reload than wait for the perfect shot. And so I think one of the things, based on exactly what you just said there, is very similar, right? Like, too many people don't get out of their comfort zone and try the new job or try that side hustle, or even try to level up their own personal development because of all their limiting beliefs and the things that they think need to be perfect first, right? And so if you're listening to this and you do not have a family, or you are not married yet, or maybe you are, you have the world by the what's. Like, you can still go out there and fail and do a bunch of stuff, and it has lower impact than if you had children that need to have diapers and school and daycare and all those other things. Not saying that you shouldn't even do it then. Of course you still should, but you could be less strategic if you are not in that position. So if you're in that position, when I started my first business, I was 17. I was living in my parents' basement. And so I had nothing to lose. And I knew that, though. I was very, very clear and cognitive of the fact that I have nothing to lose here. So, I just, you're a great testament to, just because you started somewhere doesn't mean that the rest of your life you're going to go be a bouncer somewhere once you retire, or, worked at loss prevention in Best Buy at the front desk. Realistically, you were able to completely expand, into a way different vertical. And I just think more people should understand that they have that capability to do so too.
I think people have fear, right? So they're afraid. And the problem is they need to be brave. And bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's fearing something and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
It's taking the steps to move towards something, even though you don't know how it's going to end up.
Totally.
People generally will and the fear of the thing is often worse than the thing itself.
It's always. Is it not always?
It is always. It is always. It is.
It's insane.
And so what I would tell somebody is, I've had 4 careers, 4 legitimate careers. I was a paramedic I had to go through school and training to do that. I was a police officer and detective. I had to go through school and training to do that. I did organizational psychology, and then I did UX, market, product type research. I've changed 4 times. And if I wanted to, I could change again, because it's knowing that you have to, it's incremental steps. It's in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, he talks about incremental improvement. Yep. And if you do 1% better every day, you're 38 times better by the end of a year.
Right.
Just aim for 1%. That's it.
Yeah. And I love that. People, especially with the age of social media and information accessible like it is today, everybody thinks that they're going to be the next, Gary Vee, or the next Tony Robbins, the next David Goggins, and they want to do that tomorrow, where those guys, most of the people, Steve Jobs of the world, they have been at something for so damn long and failed a bazillion times. What is a book? So as we get to the end here, what is one book that if you had to recommend to anybody, or let's just, do you have kids or anything?
What's that? I have 4 kids.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Amazing. So if you were to give your kids one book, and it's a personal development book, what would be the book you would want to give your kids?
I'm going to give you my favorite book, and it may not classify under personal development.
Yeah.
It's the most important book for people to read, and it's Animal Farm by George Orwell. And
Animal Farm?
Absolutely. The reason is we all aspire to change because we are railing against something that we don't like, a system we don't like, a political system we don't like. And what ends up happening is we become the problem through that process. We start to embrace the thing that we were railing against. And there's just so many great lessons in that book about it just says so many great things. And I believe that we should be people, humanity, as individuals, we should be better. We should aspire to be better. And that we should I think something else you said. So that's the book, but I think I want to touch on one other thing before we go, and that's this. One of the biggest things that kills people is they are comparing themselves to the Gary V's or the Steve Jobs, and the reality is those are outliers. Okay. Like the chances of you becoming a multi-billionaire,
insane.
Yeah. And so you don't need that. Like you don't need that to be happy or fulfilled.
Sure. Right.
You've got to index for the things that you want in life. And so like Animal Farm's a good example of that also. So going back to the book is, the farm animals don't like the farmers because of what they are, but then they become the farmers because they got to that level. It's just a cyclical thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I'm going to look into this book. I've heard of it. I've never taken the plunge on it, but I'm definitely going to look into it now. And so last two questions before we, dive into what you got going on and your plugs. Sure. But so I have let's call it a difficult and a mild question, right? Which one would you like first?
Go difficult.
I like it. I've been asking this question now for like 3 or 4 years, and I've only had 1 or 2 people out of hundreds say that. So definitely aligned with entrepreneurship and thinking outside the box. So, always running towards the more difficulty, not running away from it. Love that. All right. So a lot of times, Ari, we look at legacy from where your feet are planted today here in Colorado, where you are, and forward. And, I got this exercise done when I was in high school. My history teacher had us do this, and it broke my brain. So that's why I like to ask this question. And so I want to, use. So we're going to reverse engineer that thought process, right? So if we were to go to the end, looking back instead of where we are looking forward, and looking at the one thing that's going to supersede you, your kids, their kids, and that's your gravestone. If you were to write that, of course, paraphrasing here today, what would that say?
Like the statement, the phrase?
The phrase.
Tenacious pursuit of excellence. I mean, 4 words, but tenacity being like, or you could probably sum it into 1 word, to be honest. Grit. Stick with something. The reason that people fail is they quit. They give up. And giving up is the only sure way to fail. As you know, as an entrepreneur, we have setbacks all the time. Shit doesn't work all the time.
Right.
Like every week I go through this like emotions. I don't know. You have kids. So have you ever seen that show, the Disney show Tangled?
Yes.
Okay. When she gets out of the tower and she's like, I'm free, and she's so happy, and then she's crying, and then she's happy. That's my week every week.
Right.
I go through these really high moments and really low moments. But there are 2 types of people. There are those that go through the low moments and they're like, this shit doesn't work, I quit. And there are those that are like, okay, this is not fun, I don't like it, but we'll figure it out.
Right.
And it's those that push through that. And that is how I've made it through everything that I have. People look at success and they're like, well, that's Gary Vee, man. He just did it overnight. Well, Gary Vee didn't do that overnight. Gary Vee had a lot of things working for him to begin with. But even with that, it doesn't happen. It compounds. So I think that's the grit, having the tenacity and grit to drive through. It's when I a few years ago, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a triathlon. So I signed up for an Ironman and I did it. Because failure was not an option.
Right.
That's right. No, there was only one certainty when I signed up for that race. That was, I'm going to finish in under 17 hours, which is the cutoff time.
Okay.
Period. No matter what. Like if I have to walk my bike, I don't care what I have to do, I'm going to go from the start line to the finish line in under 17 hours.
Right. And you did it.
Well, yeah, because you know why? I've set up the parameters that failure wasn't an option. So if something went wrong, I had to think of, what do I need to do to get us to the goal? Rather than like, oh, well, this doesn't work. And there were times in that race where if I hadn't decided that, it would have been very easy to be like, fuck this. This is terrible.
I'm out of here. I'm sleeping off the side so nobody sees me.
Totally.
Definitely. And of course, if you could, let's paraphrase this as short as we could. But if people were on this theme of legacy, if somebody today who didn't know you were to ask your kids and your family, what's your dad like? What would they say?
Uh, I don't know, very giving. Like I'm very like I would give the shirt off my back to people. I'm very helpful. Like I support others. Like I think they would say that.
Right.
What I think that they will say as they get older and have more self-awareness is that I don't let go of stuff. Like I don't quit.
Right.
It's how like I went through and through school and how I've achieved anything I've set out to do. I've done. With that you have control of. So like going back to the discussion about data, saying that I'm going to be a billionaire is not a good goal. You have no control over that. What you do have control over is I'm going to post on LinkedIn every day. I do that. And it's how I grew an audience up to, I'll hit 20,000 by the end of this year. So that didn't happen overnight, although people like to think it did. It didn't.
Yep. I love that, man. That's really cool. The second question was, is there been an adage, it could be an ARI original, when it comes to just about resilience and persistence? Is there one thing that stands out to you?
I think if I was going to say, like, if there was, I like the idea of don't quit because of that theme. But I think that, yeah, I think I would just go with that. Like, I think if I had to pick an ad, just don't quit. Don't quit.
Don't give up.
I like that even better. Don't give up. Don't give up. And what's funny is it's like, because the I've seen those pictures and stuff of somebody digging toward gold and turning around right before they got there. It's usually what it is. Like the breakthrough is coming, and the breakthrough might not be what you think the breakthrough is. Right. Like posting on LinkedIn every day. I have no idea what that's going to look like in a year. I don't think that I'm going to be the next Gary Vee, but I know that like by doing positive things and driving toward goals, like if you're interested in customer success or product management, by doing those things, you're learning new skills that will be applied in whatever it is that you do end up doing.
Right. Yeah, that's 100% true. One of my mentors who in that 1% or less than 1%er, which was a billionaire, he was in his 90s, late 80s when I met him. And when I first met him, he said, it's exactly said to me, he said, don't ever, and he kept going, give up no matter what. Don't give up. And so I love that. Now, this is where you plug yourself, man. What's going on your side? Where can people engage with you? How can they sign up? I know you have some courses in your email list. So talk to us about that.
Yeah. So the number one thing I would tell you is I'm on a mission to help businesses and people and researchers better collect and interrogate evidence like a detective, report those insights across their business, or use them like a news anchor, and then broker outcomes like a hostage negotiator. I'm very, very focused on business communication and how to drive that forward. Going to influentialresearcher.com, you can get a free template, a communication template I build. It's free. I give you the discount code. You get it just from signing up there. I also teach a course called the Influential Researcher. It's on Maven. If you sign up for my email list, you'll be notified of that. Or as always, you can find me on LinkedIn. I post there every day.
Awesome. And how long have you been posting there every day for?
Well over a year. I may have missed a day or two here or there, but generally speaking, every day. Sometimes if I've got a lot to say, more than one day.
Couple times a day.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I try to hit once a day.
Okay. Very cool, man. Ari, listen, I'm a big believer that time is the one asset we don't get back.
Fair.
So you spending it here with us, I'm extremely grateful for. Guys, definitely go check Ari out. Definitely get on that LinkedIn, see what he's got going on there. He's putting out content, and it's very rare you see somebody go from being a detective to be able to jump in tech the way he has. So I've never heard that before. So I'm really, really excited that I was able to meet you here, and then dissect this a little bit better for you. But again, thank you for your time, man. And guys, again, you and I think my guy Ari said this a bunch of times today, but in better words, we always say, create a great day. A lot of times people are like, have a good day, feel so boxed and robotic. And, you're in charge of it, right? And so not only the day, but, in your career, create a great career. If you want a thought leader, this is one to go follow on LinkedIn for sure. So again, Ari, appreciate your time, man. And everybody create a great day.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.